It was a quiet autumn evening in the small town of Brooksville. The orange and golden leaves swirled in the crisp air as the fading sun painted the sky with a soft pink hue. This peaceful town, tucked away from the fast pace of the world, seemed like the perfect setting for a fresh start. For Ferial, a 30-year-old single mother, however, it felt like a prison. She had spent the past 6 years raising her son, Ion, after her divorce, putting her dreams and aspirations on hold. Ferial had once been a passionate artist, eager to leave her mark on the world, but life had different plans. Now her days revolved around her son's needs, his education, and his future. She worked a part-time job at a local bakery, trying to make ends meet while sacrificing her own desires. People admired Ferial's dedication to her son, but deep inside, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was fading away. She was a mother, yes, but she was also a woman who had once dreamed of more than this. Her biggest challenge was reconciling the person she was before motherhood with the one she had become. She often wondered if she would ever have the chance to reignite her passions, but the weight of responsibility was ever present. While Ion was growing into a bright and curious boy, Ferial's spirit seemed to have dulled. The sacrifices she had made were evident in the tiredness of her eyes and the silence that filled her heart. This was the life Ferial had built for herself. It was one of love, but it was also one of quiet despair. She had become so consumed by her role as a mother that she had forgotten who she was and what she wanted. Yet, there was a flicker inside her, a flicker of hope, waiting to be rekindled. The day Ferial's life began to shift was the day she met her old friend Rania. Rania had been a part of Ferial's life before marriage and motherhood had taken over. She was bold, energetic, and always believed in chasing dreams, no matter the obstacles. Over time, the distance between the two women had grown as Ferial's life became consumed with her son's needs. But when Rania returned to Brooksville after years of living abroad, it was as if a piece of Ferial's past was suddenly alive again. Rania didn't waste time in reminding Ferial of the dreams she had once held. She encouraged her to step outside the small world she had created for herself and to believe that there was more for her. Ferial's initial resistance to Rania's enthusiasm was strong. She was afraid of what change might bring, afraid that it would take her away from the one thing she loved most, her son. But Rania's words planted a seed in Ferial's heart, a seed that would eventually sprout into the belief that she, too, deserved to pursue her dreams. As the days passed, Ferial felt the weight of her old aspirations stir within her. But now the challenge wasn't just about her own desires. It was about finding a balance between her dreams and being the mother Ion needed her to be. The conflict between her past and present selves intensified, and soon Ferial found herself at a crossroads. Would she follow her passions, risking everything for the unknown? Or would she remain in the life she had created for her son, never daring to dream again? The stakes were high, and Ferial knew that whatever decision she made would change her life forever. The peaceful town of Brooksville was about to witness a transformation that would not only change Ferial's life, but also help shape Ion's future in ways she had never imagined. Ferial's life had always been about balancing responsibilities. As a mother to Ion and a caretaker of her home, she rarely had time to think about her own dreams. Every morning, she woke up to make breakfast, drop Ion off at school, and take care of all the household chores. Her art, once the center of her world, had been pushed aside. But one afternoon, while sorting through old papers, Ferial came across an envelope that would shake her out of her routine. It was an invitation to an art exhibition, an opportunity to showcase her artwork. The event was a major one, designed for artists to display their work, and the winner would receive a grant to pursue their art further. It was the kind of chance Fariel had dreamed of in her youth, before life had changed course. But now, standing in her living room, holding the letter, Fariel felt an overwhelming sense of uncertainty. The excitement of the opportunity quickly turned to doubt. She was hesitant. Could she really leave Ion to go to this exhibition? He needed her, and she didn't want to feel like she was abandoning him. It had been so long since she had thought about her own aspirations. Would he be okay without her for even a few days? And would she even succeed in an art competition? After years of neglecting her passion, was she still good enough to compete with others? Fariel tried to talk herself out of it. Maybe it's not the right time, she thought. I'm too old to be starting again. But deep down she knew that this might be her last chance to pursue what she had once loved. Her heart conflicted between two opposing forces. On one hand, she felt the pull of motherhood, the desire to continue caring for Ion and provide him with everything he needed. On the other hand, she felt the quiet yearning to rediscover herself, to reclaim the piece of her that had been lost over the years. Could she take this risk? Could she leave behind the life she had built for a short time to chase something that felt so distant yet so familiar? In her confusion, she decided to call Rania, her oldest and closest friend. Rania had always been there for her, and Fariel knew that her friend would offer the support and advice she needed to make her decision. Rania, with her carefree attitude and adventurous spirit, would remind Fariel of the woman she had once been. The woman with dreams, hope, and the courage to take chances. As Fariel waited for Rania's response, she realized that this moment, this invitation, was a crossroads. Her decision now would determine whether she would remain in the comfort of her current life, or take a leap into the unknown, trusting that she could balance both her responsibilities and her dreams. Fariel's decision to pursue her art again after so many years felt like a leap of faith, and she quickly discovered how difficult it would be to balance her old life with the new. She had agreed to participate in the art exhibition, but the journey that lay ahead was far from easy. The first challenge came when she tried to find time to work on her art. With Ion's school schedule, household chores, and the constant demands of being a mother, Fariel struggled to carve out even a few hours a week to focus on her painting. At first, every attempt to paint felt awkward and forced. She had been away from it for so long that her once fluid brushstrokes were now hesitant and unsure. The blank canvas seemed to mock her. What if I've lost it? She thought as she stared at her work, frustrated. Ion, being a young child, demanded much of her attention, and every time Fariel tried to paint, she was interrupted. Whether it was homework, meal requests, or small accidents, she found herself constantly distracted. The guilt of not being able to give Ion her full attention was overwhelming. However, as days went by, Fariel received support from her oldest friend, Rania, who had always been a strong source of motivation for her. Rania understood the pressure Fariel was under, and while she couldn't help with the responsibilities of motherhood, she constantly reminded her that pursuing her dreams was not only about her. It was about setting an example for Ion too. You're teaching him the value of following his dreams, Rania would say over the phone, giving Fariel the courage to keep going. But the road wasn't easy. At one point, Fariel received some discouraging news about the competition. One of the top artists in the city, Zara, had entered the same exhibition. Zara was known for her bold and innovative work, and the art world revered her as one of the best. Fariel had heard of Zara before, but seeing her name alongside hers felt like an impossible challenge. How can I compete with someone like her? Fariel thought, overwhelmed by doubt. The appearance of Zara in the competition added an extra layer of pressure. Zara wasn't just a rival. She was an intimidating force that loomed over Ferial's efforts. At the same time, Ferial began to notice how she was comparing herself to Zara. Her self-esteem plummeted as the exhibition drew closer. Ferial's mind was filled with negative thoughts, making her second-guess every decision. She began to lose confidence, afraid of failure and rejection. The artistic world, with its sharp criticisms and high expectations, felt like a hostile place for someone like her, an out-of-touch mother who had put her dreams on hold for too long. In the midst of all this, Ferial continued to juggle her responsibilities. The overwhelming weight of motherhood, household duties, and her growing desire to succeed in the art world made her feel like she was living in two conflicting realities. Her small victories, finishing a painting, learning to balance her time, and even having a moment where she felt proud of her work, were often followed by setbacks. Sometimes she would feel like giving up, but every time she looked at Ayan, she was reminded of the reason she was doing all this, to be a role model for him. Ayan, despite being young, started noticing the effort his mother was putting into her paintings. One evening, when Ferial was exhausted from a long day of painting and caring for Ayan, he handed her a piece of paper. On it, he had drawn a picture of her, painting on a canvas, with a small note that said, "Mom, you're the best artist I know." His innocent words and support helped rekindle the fire in Ferial. She realized that her journey wasn't just about winning a competition. It was about being the person she wanted Ayan to look up to. Yet, the challenges weren't over. Ferial continued to encounter moments where things didn't go according to plan. An unfinished painting, a delay in submission, and the looming fear of being judged by others. But with each setback, she became stronger, learning more about her craft and her true self. She was no longer just a mother. She was a woman with dreams and the courage to follow them. The final weeks before the exhibition were the hardest. Ferial had managed to complete her paintings, but with Zara's artwork also on display, she couldn't help but feel like the underdog. Still, Rania, always the optimist, reminded her that the journey itself was a victory. "You've already proven to yourself that you can do it," she said. And for the first time, Ferial realized she had won something far more valuable than any competition. She had rediscovered herself, her passion, and her courage. As the day of the exhibition approached, Ferial was ready to face the ultimate challenge, to put her art out into the world, vulnerable and raw, no matter the outcome. She had learned that success wasn't defined by winning. It was about having the strength to keep going, even in the face of doubt and fear. The day of the exhibition arrived, and Ferial stood at the entrance of the Grand Art Gallery, her heart pounding with a mix of excitement and dread. The space was alive with activity. Artists, critics, and art enthusiasts filled the hall, their voices buzzing like an electric current. As she carried her paintings inside, she couldn't help but glance at Zara's section. Her rival's work was mesmerizing, a blend of bold colors and abstract designs that immediately drew attention. Ferial's self-doubt threatened to overwhelm her, but she reminded herself of her journey and the effort she had put into this moment. Ferial's section was set up near the center of the hall, her paintings showcasing scenes of resilience and motherhood. Each piece told a story of sacrifice, love, and rediscovery, deeply personal and raw. Yet, as people began walking past her section, she noticed something disheartening. Very few paused to look. Her work seemed overshadowed by the more striking and contemporary pieces around her, including Zara's. A critical moment came when a renowned art critic arrived. Known for his sharp and often ruthless reviews, his opinion could make or break an artist's career. He stopped in front of Ferial's work, his expression unreadable. She watched, holding her breath, as he scrutinized her paintings, leaning in to observe the details. The seconds felt like hours. Then, without a word, he moved on. Fariel's heart sank, her insecurities rushing to the surface. What was I thinking? I don't belong here, she thought, her confidence crumbling. But just as Fariel was ready to retreat into herself, a small crowd began to gather in front of her section. To her surprise, it was Rania who had brought them over. Rania, always her biggest supporter, had been speaking to guests, passionately sharing Fariel's story and the inspiration behind her art. Slowly, people began to connect with the emotional depth of Fariel's paintings. They weren't just looking at her work, they were feeling it. Among the viewers was a mother with her young child. The woman stopped in front of one painting that depicted a mother comforting her child under a stormy sky. Tears welled up in her eyes as she turned to Fariel and said, "This reminds me of my own struggles. Thank you for painting this." Her words struck a chord in Fariel, reminding her of the purpose behind her art, to connect with people, to tell stories that resonated. However, the most significant challenge came when Zara herself approached Fariel's section. Zara, confident and poised, examined the paintings with genuine curiosity. "These are beautiful," she said, her voice sincere. "You have a gift for capturing emotion." Fariel was taken aback by the compliment, unsure if it was genuine or polite. But in that moment she realized that her biggest competition wasn't Zara. It was her own fear of inadequacy. The turning point came when the results of the exhibition were announced. Zara, as expected, won the grand prize. Fariel felt a twinge of disappointment, but quickly reminded herself of what she had gained. Unexpectedly, the judges introduced a new category: Audience Choice Award. To Fariel's astonishment, her name was called. The crowd erupted in applause as she stepped forward to accept the award, her eyes searching for Rania and Ayan, who were cheering for her from the sidelines. The award wasn't just a recognition of her talent, it was a validation of her journey. In that moment, Fariel felt an overwhelming sense of pride, not because of the trophy in her hands, but because she had faced her fears, embraced her dreams, and found a new purpose. The fallout of her actions was clear. She had inspired others, and more importantly, rediscovered herself. As the applause faded, Fariel looked at Ayan, who was beaming with pride, and knew that she had set an example he would carry with him forever. As the night of the exhibition wound down, Fariel stood quietly by her section, clutching the Audience Choice Award in her hands. The gallery was less crowded now, but the warmth of the evening's events lingered. Her paintings, which had once felt like an extension of her vulnerability, were now symbols of her strength and resilience. People had not only seen the art, but had felt it, understood the depth of her story, her struggles, and her triumphs. Fariel glanced at Rania, who was chatting with a small group of attendees. Her friend had been her anchor throughout this journey, always believing in her, even when Fariel couldn't believe in herself. Ayan, her son, ran up to her, his eyes wide with excitement. "Mama, I'm so proud of you," he exclaimed, throwing his arms around her. In that moment, Fariel realized that this journey wasn't just about finding her voice as an artist. It was about showing Ayan the power of perseverance and self-belief. Rania approached with a broad smile. "You did it, Fariel. And don't say it's because of me. This was all you." Fariel shook her head, her voice steady but full of emotion. "No, Rania. You reminded me of who I was when I'd forgotten. I owe this to you for being my friend, my cheerleader, and my family." As they packed up the paintings, Fariel felt a deep sense of closure. She had walked into the exhibition with doubts and fears, but she was leaving with something far more valuable than an award. She had reclaimed her confidence, her identity, and her dreams. Zara, her once intimidating rival, approached her before leaving the gallery. "Congratulations, Fariel. Your work is truly inspiring. I'd love to collaborate someday." Fariel smiled, no longer intimidated. "Thank you, Zara. That means a lot."